You're watching News Central now on News Central Television. The top stories at this hour. Nigeria Labour Congress, a trade union congress, suspend industrial action for 5 days. Nigerian Air Force destroys terrorist camps in Kaduna, Katsina state. Tigray capital slowly emerging from shadows of war. Details in a moment. Many thanks for joining. I am Dakbo Adigboye. Now, the news at this hour begins in Nigeria. We are members of the organized labor comprising the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress on Tuesday suspended their strike for 5 days. The centers are expected to issue a statement shortly before the commencement of negotiations with the government. The strike, which commenced on Monday, was called to protest the failure of the federal government to approve new minimum wage by May 31st, as well as its failure to reverse the hike in electricity tariff. After a 6-hour meeting with the leadership of the organized labor in Abuja on Monday night, the federal government expressed the commitment of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to raising the 60,000 naira offered as the minimum wage. According to the statement released, the President of Nigeria, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, is committed to establishing a national minimum wage higher than 60,000 naira, and the tripartite committee will convene daily for the next week to finalize an agreeable national minimum wage. Earlier, our correspondent Bernard Akede spoke to us on this development.
Aviation union workers, they pretty much are gyrating in their own lingua about the suspension of the strike, 1 month suspension, and that's because unionists are in talks with the federal government. Now, they say they are optimistic that their talks will yield positive responses, but within the time frame while these talks are ongoing, they are suspending the strike for 1 week. It's a suspension, it's not called off. So if that 1 week, if within that 1 week, their conversations are not favorable, then it's possible that the strike would resume again. But they say they are hopeful and they're optimistic that this strike will not resume, that from suspension eventually it will be called off. Now, we saw the MM2 gate being thrown open, and then passengers who were supposed to fly roll their luggage into the airport, and there was a lot of celebration after the announcement that the strike had been suspended for 1 week. We're in front of MM1 gate, and about the same thing is most likely going to happen here. The gate will be thrown open eventually after the announcement about the suspension of the strike for 1 week.
Also, National Assembly workers under the Parliamentary Staff Association of Nigeria have opened the assembly gates to allow lawmakers, staff and visitors to access the complex. The gates were opened on Tuesday afternoon following the news that the Nigeria Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress had suspended their strike for 1 week to allow further negotiations with the federal government. Parson had locked the gates on Monday in solidarity with the NLC and TUC, who called the strike to push for a new minimum wage for workers in the country. The secretary to the government of the Federation, George Akume, on Monday led the federal government's team to meet with the leadership of the organized labor to continue negotiations on how to resolve the impasse. Some civil servants in Abia State have frowned at the announcement of the suspension of the 2-day strike of organized labor. Others are, however, applauding the unions for relaxing the strike in order to give the government an opportunity to look into the minimum wage demands made by the labor unions. Residents of Umuahia already began feeling the pangs of the strike in the power distribution that plunged homes and businesses into recurring more expenses of buying fuel to power their generators.
It was suggested that is it cut off, suspension, or a new lexicon that has now been brought into our dictionary. And we want to believe, exactly just like Comrade Aguero said, that this should begin to fly now. And what is this lexicon? That we should relax this action. It's not a suspension. It's not a call-off. But we are giving them 1 week moratorium to perfect what they thought was impossible. Because as at last Sunday, this Sunday, the song in their mouth, that is the government and their pro-travelers, was that 2 months were the minimum period that this could be achieved.
The gates of the domestic airports in Lagos were reopened today as the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress suspended their indefinite strike for 1 week. The action, which was meant to force the hand of the government to increase the minimum wage, halted activities of different sectors in the country, but was suspended on the second day following ongoing negotiations between Labour and the government. News Central's Bernard Akede has been following the story in Lagos and was at the airport when the strike was eventually suspended.
It's day 2 of the indefinite strike embarked upon by NLC and TUC. Though there were talks about shutting down activities at the international airport in Lagos, it seemed business was going on as usual. To my left here are a group of pilgrims who are waiting for their flight. The private pilgrims are fearing that the strike may affect their travel plans, but they've been here as early as 7 a.m. just so that if anything goes wrong, they will still have the chance to take off.
So when bata wọlé àwọn elétò ní ká ní sùúrù díẹ̀. So aláti wá sọ́dọ̀ àwọn èèyàn wa tó sìn wá ká wá ṣe àìsí wọn gbà tí àsìkò tá fẹ́ lọ ò tí tó. Ṣùgbọ́n àwọn elétò ní ká ní sùúrù díẹ̀. So la ní ká wá kí àwọn tó sìn wá ká wá ṣe àìsí wọn níta.
While passengers and workers at the international airport remained hopeful that the situation would not degenerate, the same could not be said of the domestic airport. Unionists here could be seen dancing to music while waving union flags, while the airport's gates remained chained just as it was the day before. Intermittently, information from the ongoing meeting in Abuja was disseminated over the public address system.
The NLC-TUC meeting.
And then, just about 20 minutes before noon, the information of the suspension of the strike was announced, and amidst cheers, the gates of the domestic airport, MM2, were reopened.
So what we have done is to suspend the strike for another 1 week, because the government has said that in the next 1 week from today, they will be discussing with us on daily basis. So we hope that in the next 1 week, both the government and the union should be able to come up with something reasonable.
The union members then made their way to the old domestic airport and reopened the gates there too. As for passengers, it was mixed feelings. While they could now heave a sigh of relief, there was also the part of frustration caused by the suspension of airport activities.
I was meant to fly 6 a.m. I have a meeting in Abuja for today. I don't know. We're waiting for the pilots. We're waiting for Labour Congress. We're waiting for Nigeria to do the right thing.
I received an instruction from them, an alert instruction from them, that by 1 o'clock the flight will still move. But unfortunately, they are telling me now that the thing has been shifted to Thursday. I came all the way from Ibadan.
And with the announcement of the strike suspension, the gates of the airports have been thrown open. Passengers can once again fly across the country. However, the unionists say that this is not the end. The strike has only been suspended and has not been called off. They, however, are optimistic both the union and the government will be able to come to favorable agreements that will be for the betterment of all Nigerians. In Lagos for News Central, I'm Bernard Akede.
As been reported, the nationwide strike over a new minimum wage demand has been suspended by the labor unions. However, prior to the suspension announcement, News Central's Niyomani went around Lagos to monitor compliance and the impact on the second day of the industrial action.
Saw a noticeable decline in activity as compared to a typical business. The streets were sparsely occupied as some youth took the opportunity to engage in sports. Private schools remained closed, marking the closure of public schools except for students sitting for the West African examinations. Operations also halted across major factories in the Ikeja Central Business District, Lagos State Commercial Hub.
We closed this gate yesterday we carry wood, everything. There will be no work. And everywhere, 12 a.m. yesterday, they shut down the light. Up till now, we don't have light. We will take it like that until you hear our voice.
The sparseness of passengers at bus stops underscored the significant reduction in movement. Onyebuchi, a Lagos bus driver, commented on the low ridership as buses competed for the few commuters.
Since yesterday, nobody, we are just managing, buying fuel for nothing. We go same as come back without not see anything. You don't even make the money, we take buy fuel.
While most gas stations closed, the few that opened saw long queues.
We know if we sleep for inside our house, we know if we go farm our farm. Now we come Lagos, now come on security job how they do. I get 3 children. See they can't queue what they there. My boss where they find to hype to give me. You know if you go work again because of petrol. I come out like 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock. I never put anything for my belly. Since morning now, I did for free station. From this free station to other free station. What here our leader they do? What here our leader do? Is our fatherland. We fit go another country to claim that country, say our country. It's not our country. Why crazy no go day? Why thief no go day? Huh? You work now, today they give you 30,000 naira per month. You get 2 children or 2 wives. You they rent a house. You they pay water. You pay lights. And then you don't see the lights.
This is really, really disheartening because as a country, we are not supposed to be going through this when we have leaders.
Additionally, malls and eateries experienced diminished patronage as most hospitals continued operations.
For example, the hospital I'm visiting here now with my family, they are attending to us. No doctor is absent.
The recent resolution to temporarily suspend the strike for 1 week may gradually return processes to normal. However, questions remain as to whether these measures will ultimately yield positive outcomes, especially for those who have endured consequences like a total nationwide power blackout. In Lagos for News Central, Ni Omani.
Let's go on a quick break. When we return, we have more stories. Stay with us. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has named the arterial road that's N20 from Northern Parkway to Outer Northern Expressway in Abuja after playwright and Nobel laureate Wole Soyinka. The highway's naming follows the recommendation of the Federal Capital Territory Administration led by the former Minister of the Minister of the FCT, that's Nyesom Wike. In a post via his X on Tuesday, the special advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, that's Bayo Ononuga, said the highway will now be called Professor Wole Soyinka Highway. Tinubu, in naming the road after Soyinka, who will be 90 on July 13th, highlighted his contributions to literature and his role in elevating Nigeria's global cultural standing. The president also asserted that the novelist had brought honor and fame to Nigeria through his unparalleled contribution to literature and his unwavering commitment to human rights and social justice. Let's move to politics, where Nigeria's electoral umpire has extended the ongoing continuous voter registration in Edo and Ondo states for 4 days. The Independent National Electoral Commission said the exercise, scheduled to end on Wednesday, has been extended to Sunday, June 9th, 2024, to enable more eligible persons to register. In a statement on Tuesday, the National Commissioner and Chairman of the Information and Voter Education Committee, Sam Olumekun, said the Commission took their decision during a meeting on Tuesday in Abuja. He added that the registration hours have been extended from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. daily, and the number of registration centers have been increased to include all 36 local government offices in the 2 states, in addition to the existing 397 wards and state offices in Benin City and Akure. Away from labor matters now, the senator representing Bauchi North, a senatorial district, Senator Abdul Ningi, on Tuesday returned to plenary sessions following the 3-month suspension. Now, the Senate had pardoned and recalled him, ending a suspension that began on March 12, 2024. Last week, Deputy Minority Leader Senator Abba Moro moved a motion for Ningi's recall, expressing regret on his behalf and taking responsibility for his actions. The Senate President Godswill Akpabio subsequently announced Ningi's unconditional recall after pleas from some lawmakers. Ningi's suspension stemmed from a controversial interview where he alleged discrepancies in the 2024 budget claiming the National Assembly approved 25 trillion naira, while the presidency implemented 28.7 trillion naira.
My resolve to, with a profound humility, to Allah, the sustainer and the cherisher, thanking him for giving us this day and for finding it fit enough, for finding time to be with you once again. And I would like to commend the Senate for this gesture. And I would like especially to commend the Senate President for the kind words you have expressed that day about me. Commend the leadership of the minority. Also commend the ad hoc committee of the Senate.
So let me thank distinguished Senator Ningi for his kind words to the Senate, the leadership and members, and also thank the senators for welcoming you back and taking a unanimous decision to call you back from Turkey. I believe that you have a lot to contribute to the 10th Senate. I believe you're a very resourceful senator.
Let's go on a quick break. When we return, we have more stories. Stay with us. Airstrikes by the Nigerian Air Force have destroyed terrorist enclave in Giwa local government area of Kaduna State. A statement on Tuesday by the Nigerian Air Force Director of Public Relations and Information, Edward Gabot, said the strikes were carried out between 30th to 31st of May 2024 by its air component of Operation Whirl. The surveillance also confirmed the substantial presence of armed terrorists loitering around the hordes, and over 13 motorcycles were seen tucked under a large umbrella tree. The statement also said the targeted exploitation of multiple sources revealed that the terrorists at the location were responsible for most of the attacks and kidnappings in several communities within burning Gwari, Igabi, and Giwa local government areas. The Police Service Commission has released a list of 10,000 successful applicants for recruitment into the constable and specialist cadres of the Nigerian Police Force. PSC spokesperson Ikechukwu Ani, who made this known in a statement on Tuesday, noted that it worked with guidance from relevant stakeholders. The stakeholders include the police, National Assembly, and the Federal Character Commission to ensure fairness and justice in the recruitment process. Ani added that the Commission ensured equity in the spread of successful candidates across the 774 local government areas of the country. Let's also tell you that no fewer than 30 persons were found dead when a mining pit collapsed in Galgodo village in Shiroro local government area of Niger State. According to reports, the incident occurred late Monday night, and that one dead body had so far been evacuated, while 6 persons were rescued with injuries. The State Emergency Management Agency Public Relations Officer Ibrahim Hussein confirmed the incident, but the state's Ministry of Mineral Resources was yet to issue any official statement on the incident. We would, of course, keep an eye on this one and bring you up to speed. Let's also tell you that 3 persons have died following a tanker that exploded in the Obiri-Ikwere flyover along the east-west road in Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital, on Tuesday. The incident involved a tanker carrying what is believed to be liquefied natural gas, which fell over, crushed the vehicle, and exploded while trying to navigate the roundabout. Confirming the incident in a telephone conversation, the police public relations officer, Grace Iringe Koko, said the victims were burnt beyond recognition when the tanker fell on the vehicle they were commuting. The impact of the explosion was felt kilometers away, as some of the residents said their windows were smashed, while others reported feeling the vibrations. This latest explosion is coming a month after a similar tanker explosion occurred along the Eleme axis of the same east-west road, which claimed 4 lives and destroyed over 60 vehicles. Let's move to health matters now, where Doctors Without Borders says its inpatient facility in northern Nigeria recorded an extraordinary increase in admissions of severely malnourished children with life-threatening complications in recent weeks. According to the group, the figures exceed last year's figures by over 100% in some locations. It said this is an alarming indication of a premature peak of the lean season and the increase in acute malnutrition that accompanies it, typically anticipated in July. The humanitarian non-governmental organization made this known in a press statement released on Tuesday. The group says children are dying, and if immediate action is not taken, more lives hang in the balance. Coming up on the news, Tigray capital slowly emerging from shadows of war. We have details of this and more after now. Let's head to the east of the continent, where roads are being rebuilt, halted constructions on building is back on track, and also shops and cafes are once again bustling in Tigray's capital, Mekelle, as a peace deal finally ended one of the deadliest conflicts in recent years. Although Ethiopia's northernmost region of Tigray is still gripped by a humanitarian crisis, the capital, Mekelle, is slowly crawling back to normality 19 months after a peace deal ended one of the world's deadliest recent conflicts. The 2-year war between Ethiopian federal forces and Tigrayan rebel authorities killed as many as 600,000 persons by some estimates, forced several millions from their homes and unleashed widespread hunger.
የልማት ስትራቴጂ የተሰራ ያለው በጣም ደስ የሚል ነገር ነው ማለት ከዚህ ሁሉ ጦርነት አልቆ ወደ ሰላም ወደ ልማት ብዙ ነገባ በጣም ደስ ይል ነው ይሄ አንድ ለውጥ ነው
ህዝቡም ያው ከነበረበት ብዙ ችግርና ብዙ መንከራ ያሳለፈውን አሁን ትንሽ ፍታ ያገኘው ይመስላል ለወደፊቱ ያው እንደዚህ ብሎ ሰላሙ ከተገኘ እንደዚህ ሰው እየተንቀሳቀሰ ራሱን ችሎ መኖር አንድ ትልቅ ነገር ነው
አስተዳደሩ ማዘጋጃ ቤቱ የተከተለው አፕሮች ከታች ወደ ላይ የሚለው ምክንያቱም ያለን ሪሶርስ በጣም ውስን ነው ውድመቱ ከፍተኛ ነው ሶ ከተማችንን መልሰን የመገንባት አትሊስት ለስራ ምቹ የሆነ ነገር ኢንቫይሮንመንት ለመፍጠር ህዝባችንን ምንድነው የሚፈልገው የሚለው ነው ቅድሚያ የተሰጠው በዚህ መሃል ከተማ ብንወስድ ወደ 12 መንገዶች ነው የምንሰራው አሁን 3 እየጨረስን ነው ሶ ይቀጥላል ከዚህ ከሁለት ሆስፒታሎች ስራዎች አሉ
Residents of Othongati, a town in eastern South Africa, have assessed the damage of their homes and community after a storm ripped through the area. Local authorities on Tuesday said flooding caused by torrential rain and fierce winds on South Africa's eastern coast killed at least 22 persons. A spokesperson from Nelson Mandela Bay municipality at the heart of the floods said at least 11 persons died in Eastern Cape. The provincial government in neighboring KwaZulu-Natal said at least 11 persons had died in and around the port city of Durban.
Sinakudla ukudla kumatile izinto zethu zonke ezimatile ama-ideas asagqibekile sisafuna asinalutho nje kahle kahle asinalutho njengamanje asinalutho but onosizo bengavela bakithi besincede ngayo yonke indlela abangasiza ngayo ngoba kumanzi ngisho ingubo zokulala njengoba sibona sakho olayini imbhedi imanzi yonke into imanzi sizama khona ukuthi zama ukuthi silale khona emgwaqeni kodwa sibe simbathile
njengoba nibona lamaplanga bengihlalisa abantu abaqashile la so manje njengoba kuwela amaplanga kusho ukuthi abasenayo indawo yokuhlala kusho ukuthi mina hona ngizama indawo yokuhlala ngizamele nabo nale ndlu fanele ngiyilungisa of which ke anginayo ke nalo mali lokwenza lezo zinto lezo bengiphila ngabo labantu abaqashile bawuthuka kuphela
angisasebenzi ngisebenza wona lo msebenzi wokukhanda imoto lokho ngaphuma emsebenzini ngo96 ngikhandala ezimoto manje angazi njengoba idemeshe ingaka ukuthi ngizokwenza kanjani ngoba abanye abanikazi bazo bayamukela abanye abafuna ukumukela kuba sengathi mina engenze lento.
A South African man appeared in court on Tuesday, accused of stabbing to death a mother and of wounding her husband and son because of the family's pro-Palestinian views. 44-year-old Grayson Bear is charged with murder and 2 counts of attempted murder over the attack, which took place on Sunday in a suburb of the eastern city of Durban. A spokesperson for the National Prosecuting Authority, Natasha Ramkinson-Kara, said the woman died and her family members, who were also alleged stabbed multiple times, were seriously injured. Detectives initially said the motive of the violence was not clear, but a 10-year-old survivor, understood to be the woman's daughter, told investigators that the suspect stated that he was stabbing them because they supported Palestine. Still ahead, Chinese government urges Philippines to stop making trouble. Of course, we have details of this and more after now. The Philippine military on Tuesday said Chinese boats illegally seized food and medicine airdropped to a Filipino outpost in the South China Sea. The alleged incident happened on May 19th at the second terminus Seoul in the Spratly Islands, where Filipino troops are garrisoned on a grounded Navy vessel to assert Manina's claims to the waters. The Philippine military accused China of aggressive and unprovoked interference when 2 Chinese rigid-hulled inflatable boats allegedly came within 10 meters of the Sierra Madera vessel and seized an airdropped package meant for Filipino troops. China hit back, insisting the Sierra Madera was illegally grounded on the reef and urging the Philippines to stop making trouble. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Mao Ning said the Philippine aid has also repeatedly provoked and intensified conflicts, escalating the situation.
升级事态，这个是我们不能接受的。对于如何处理这个问题，中方已经反复阐明了我们的原则立场。我们希望菲方不要再继续制造事端，而是要回到通过对话协商解决分歧的正确轨道上来。
German Interior Minister says she is considering allowing deportations of serious criminals and dangerous individuals to Afghanistan after an asylum seeker from the country injured 5 and killed a police officer in a knife attack. She was speaking on Tuesday during a press conference in Berlin. A police officer reportedly died after being repeatedly stabbed as he tried to intervene in the attack, and 5 others taking part in a rally organized by Pax Europa, a campaign group against radical Islam, were also wounded. The brutal attack has inflamed a public debate over immigration in the run-up to European elections and prompted calls to expand efforts to expel criminals.
Ich lasse seit mehreren Monaten sehr intensiv prüfen, auch nach unserer einheitlichen Meinung bei der Innenministerkonferenz, um Abschiebung von schweren Straftätern und Gefährdern nach Afghanistan wieder zu ermöglichen. Das ist nicht so banal. Und für mich ist klar, dass Personen, die eine potenzielle Gefahr für die Sicherheit Deutschlands sind, schnell abgeschoben werden müssen. Und da bin ich auch ganz entschieden. Die Sicherheitsinteressen Deutschlands, das überwiegt hier eindeutig gegenüber den Bleibeinteressen von Betroffenen. Ich will das ganz klar sagen. Und deswegen versuchen wir auch, alles möglich zu machen, um Wege zu finden, Straftäter und Gefährder sowohl nach Syrien als auch nach Afghanistan abzuschieben.
Iran's acting foreign minister Ali Bagheri Khani met with President Bashar al-Assad of Syria in the capital, Damascus. The 2 sides discussed a wide range of issues during the meeting on Tuesday, including the crisis in the besieged Gaza Strip, as well as the need to end the crimes of Israel against the Palestinian people. Bagheri Khani is in Syria on the second leg of his regional tour after visiting Lebanon. The Iranian minister had earlier said one of the main goals of his regional tour is to boost synergy amongst resistance groups in their confrontation with Israel. Earlier in the day, the top Iranian diplomat said Israel is the root cause of instability in the region. He made the remarks at a joint press conference with his Syrian counterpart, Faisal Magdad. Nigerians were greeted with the news that the Central Bank of Nigeria had revoked the license of Heritage Bank on Monday, June 3rd. The regulator stated that despite numerous efforts by the bank's board and management to enhance its financial performance, no significant improvement was observed. The CBN took this action based on Heritage Bank's violation of Section 12, subsection 1 of the BOFIAT 2020, which relates to its inability to improve its financial standing. Tunji Andrew, CEO of Awaba, shared his perspective on whether these constraints should be considered internal or external, considering the recent policies implemented by the central bank and the existing challenges in the financial market during an appearance on the Business Edge show.
Nigeria, there are many other banks, there are even regional banks, there are microfinance banks that are still doing fantastic. I do not think it's as a result of the regulators' demands on the bank. However, the banking business in itself is one that you run a very tight ship. You might hear of banks, declaring billions in profit, but that is out of a very, very strict methodology in terms of lending, taking back, earning profit. So if a bank is not, if it's not stable internally and you have a little to the left, a little to the right, things can go bad very quickly, as we have seen in this case. But I want to commend the CBN. And I know that we do not commend them a lot, but this is one time where, making this news public was one that I'm sure that they were, they knew that will cause a bit of, worry from the general public, but they still had to step out and let the general public know that this is a concern they have and they have had to revoke this license. And we've also seen that some fake news has started to go around since yesterday that, oh, this bank is going through this bank is going through that. But generally, like I said, nothing that is happening to or happened to Heritage Bank that is not happening to other banks in the industry, and they're still thriving.
Still in business, Nigeria's oil production may receive a significant boost if ExxonMobil is permitted to sell its asset to Seplat Energy following the lifting of an injunction. Now, this potential deal could add nearly 500,000 barrels per day to Nigeria's daily production. Kelvin Emmanuel, economist and CEO of Dairy Hills, shared his insights on how the Seplat ExxonMobil agreement might impact Nigeria's long-term oil revenue sharing arrangements and also potential reinvestments in the sector during an appearance on the Business Edge show.
Simply talks about preemption rights, the transfer restriction rights. So basically in joint venture agreements, there's a right of first refusal to joint venture partners. It's just like a company that is publicly quoted going to the stock market. It's already done the IPO. It's going for another round of capital raise. There is the right of first refusal the company has to give to existing shareholders to buy the shares. The preemption rights here between NNPC and Mobil simply says that Mobil had the obligation to offer NNPCL the shares it wants to sell, especially for its onshore operations before it actually offers to a third party, which is Seplat. And it's my understanding that maybe that was not done, or that was done and the terms were not concluded between Mobil and NNPCL. Mobil was the operator of the block and NNPCL is the joint venture partner. And so he decided to offer to an external party who was willing to pay more than what the JV partner was willing to pay. So basically the JV partner decided to go to court to trigger the preemption rights to prevent the operator of the block selling to a third party without fulfilling the obligations of right of first refusal to NNPCL. But Considering that that single decision cuts and the fact that the government stalled that deal from going through led to a drop in production output of nearly 500,000 barrels per day, says so much about what that deal going through now.
Tanzania and Ethiopia have announced agreements with South Korea for loans worth billions of dollars, forming part of broader deals that will grant the Asian nation access to Africa's vital mineral resources and also extensive export market. Tanzania is set to borrow $2.5 billion over the next 5 years through concessional loans, while Ethiopia, a rapidly growing economy, has signed a $1 billion financial deal for over 4 years. However, raising concerns, such deals subtly exploit Africa's resources, particularly as interest will be paid back on the loans. Professor X.N. Iraki, an economist at the University of Nairobi, shared his views on these loan agreements during an appearance on the Business Edge show.
This deal, my suspicion is that it is more expensive, or the costs are more than the benefits, because we are going to lose, African countries are going to lose control of their resources. So if they were given a choice, or if I'm given a choice, I would probably tell these countries, Korea and the rest, give us resources, give us technology, and then we exploit our resources at our own terms. But as things are now, I think there will be some issues that are going to come in future.
And of course, in the world of sports, the Super Eagles players who were stranded in Lagos and Abuja following their inability to get flights because of the labor union strike are now in Uyo, the nest of champions. The camp buzzed with excitement as 5 stranded players, including Semi Ajayi, Bright Osai Samuel, Calvin Bassi, Frank Onyeka and Paul Onuachu, were airlifted to Uyo via a private jet arranged by the Nigerian Football Federation, arriving just in time for lunch. They joined their teammates, boosting the camp's roster to 20 players ahead of the qualifying clash with South Africa. Nigeria seeks redemption after their Africa Cup of Nations triumph, aiming for victory to stay competitive in Group C's race for a World Cup spot. Cocoa Gaf staged a remarkable comeback, overturning a set deficit to defeat Ons Jabeur and secure a spot in the French Open semi-finals, despite a shaky start where she struggled against Jabeur's shot-making. Gaf, seeded third at Roland Garros, gained her composure in the second set. She dominated the match by breaking Jabeur's nerve 3 consecutive times as the Tunisian's performance waned in the final set. Gaf capitalized with an early break. Although Jabeur mounted a late challenge, Gaf held firm, sealing victory on her 3rd match point. Now, the victory marks Gaf's resilience and determination, propelling her into the tournament's final tour. And that's a wrap on the news at this time. But before we go, another look at some of our top stories. We told you that Nigerian Labour Congress, Trade Union Congress, have suspended the industrial action for 5 days. We also told you that Nigerian Air Force destroys terrorist camps in Kaduna and Katsina states. And finally, we mentioned that Tigray capital slowly emerging from shadows of war. Don't forget to send in your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. You can also follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live across these platforms. That's DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube.